Good evening, and welcome to tonight's shir. And I've written Moyed. So we'll start off with a word of the Rebbe Marash. If I'm not mistaken, according to the Cheshbon of the Oshpizen. So that it would be the Oshpizen of the Rebbe Marash. Anyway, here's the story like this. That is talking here about sitting on a chair which has got, and behind you, there's a bookcase which doesn't have doors. He calls it politzer. That's Yiddish for shelf. And the Sforim, is it okay to sit with your back to shelves of Sforim? Nearly poshet demuta. I think it's obvious that that's okay, because we do find that there's an objection to having your back to a Sefer Torah. But none of the poskim mention that there's a problem of sitting with your back to Sforim. Having said that, if you remember the Rebbe's room in Yechidus, behind the Rebbe there's no Sforim, it's like paneling. All right, but meanwhile the Rebbe Marash says that's not a problem. V'gam yesh loymar shema sheyesh b'hakisei doifen me'achereho. The fact that there is also a wall, the chair has got a back, so that the back of the chair would also count as a hefsek, to make it as a separate rishus. Now, the old-fashioned chairs, you can see, the fancier chairs would have like a tall back, which is more than 10 tefachim. So possibly that's what he was referring to, that the back of the chair would count as a hefsek. Let's move on. So one of our listeners is a shliach somewhere in the UK, and he provides arba minim for his flock, should we say. And one of the members said, you know what, I'll come in on Sunday. So I don't need it before Yom Tov. I'll come in on Sunday and I'll pick it up then. So he's asking, the shliach asked, is there a question of kinya? So actually it's a legitimate question, because one's not allowed to be koine stuff, to acquire stuff on Shabbos. Now let's read the following quote from the Alter Rebbe's Shulchan Aruch Samachin Vav. Sif Yud Zayin, as you can see, that which is customary to sell the esrog after the mitzvah is completed. That, he says, is like selling places in shul, which is not so straightforward as discussed earlier. But what you are buying to do the mitzvah, that is okay to buy. That's more and not considered you're buying a real article. It's like you sell the mitzvahs in shul. You're not really selling a physical article. You're not buying the esrog. You're only having buying the mitzvah. Even on the first day of Yom Tov, when it has to be yours, but you're buying it, you're koine now and asked to give it back. Therefore, all you're being koine is just the mitzvah. So that's okay if it's done on Shabbos. Yom Tov, same thing. I will also liknus the gamrias esriga shoifer b'Yom Tov, and to freehold, so an outright purchase of an esrig or a shofar for that matter on Yom Tov, that would not be okay. Shofar, it's not so necessary. You can use a borrowed shofar. But so if someone would go up to a vendor of esrogim on Yom Tov, can I buy an esrog for you? It'd be a problem to sell him an esrog. You can give him as a gift, etc. But it's not so straightforward. Now, we've gone through this before, that actually in the given situation, it's not such a problem, because the buyer had already paid for the esrog before Yom Tov. Now, although mo'os einon koine, strictly speaking, paying money, if I come to you, I want to buy a hat, and I give you the $90, whatever it costs for a hat, but I didn't touch the hat. I've given you the $90 and the hat is still in your possession. So la halacha, the hat is still yours, not mine. And both you and I have the rights to cancel and say, oh no, I don't want to buy the hat. I don't want to sell the hat. You can still change. Because although there has been exchange of money, mois einon koinus, mere exchange of money is not recognized as a kinyan in halacha. So the fact that he paid for the esrog in advance, why does that make any difference? Well, although mois einon koinus, but there is a concept called mishapara, that if a person has already gone into a transaction, although not completed, and now he wants to pull out, there would be a curse for the one who doesn't keep his word. So in a couple of places in halacha we see the following, that although mo'os are not a kinyan, but they are good enough where there's a need for a kinyan derabonon. For if it's to avoid an issa derabonon, kinyan mo'os is recognized. So because this fellow, although it's not a kinyan, because he had paid up with his credit card in advance, so he is already koiner on the level that if he would retract, or if the vendor would retract, there would be an issue of mishapara. Therefore, it's considered enough of a kinyan to take away the issur of acquiring goods on Shabbos or Yom Tov. We've gone through this before to explain the heter, why if goods arrive from an online order, if they arrive on Shabbos, why is it not a problem to accept the goods? Why is it not a kinyan? And the answer being because you've paid in advance. Now, which brings us really very much to the next question, which is that someone actually from Detroit emailed me asking that she had ordered some clothes for her children online, and the likelihood is that they would arrive on Shabbos or on Yom Tov. And she's asking, would she be allowed to use them on Shabbos or Yom Tov? Now, in the past, I have been concerned about this because of course the Tchum. Now, here you have on the screen from the Shmiras Shabbos Hilchasa that a parcel arrived, he says, in Chutz La'aretz. It arrived by post on Shabbos. And not because you insisted that it should be delivered on Shabbos. So then, okay, then you are allowed to benefit from the stuff in the parcel, even if it was brought from beyond the Tchum, from beyond the Eruv, even through Rosh Hashanah. So he says you're allowed to benefit from the goods in the parcel. Right. Now, what we have here beneath on the screen, we have from Hilchos Yom Tov in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, Siman Tov Kuf Tesvav, Seif Tesvav. He writes, if something was brought on Yom Tov, it's an edible thing, even the one for whom it was brought. Again, since something which is brought on Yom Tov is edible for the non-intended beneficiary, therefore the intended beneficiary, who's not allowed to enjoy it, is allowed to move it on Yom Tov. It's not muksa. Something which is fit for others to use, therefore would not be muksa for you. All right. Rak, however, you would not be allowed to move it beyond the Daled Amis, where in a place where you were not allowed to carry on Shabbos. And the restriction would be both for the intended or the unintended beneficiary, that they would not be allowed to move the article beyond the Daled Amis. We're going to discuss it in a moment. And this is so interesting. V'afal that he is allowed to eat it, but you're not allowed to carry it out to Daled Amis. Because something which comes from beyond the Tchum is kind of grounded, is not allowed to be taken beyond the Daled Amis. Now, what this means is, Daled Amis could be my house, the whole house is a Daled Amis. My front garden, my back garden is also part of the Daled Amis. It's all one premises. So here's such an interesting thing, that something which was brought from beyond the Tchum, you're allowed to eat it on that day, but you're not allowed to carry it beyond the Daled Amis. Now, if the area is surrounded with an Eruv, it's a valid Eruv, then the whole Eruv is considered like Dal Dams. So then you'd be allowed to carry the article, wear the article anywhere within the Eruv. So in Stamford Hill, we have part of Stamford Hill has got an Eruv, that's N15 area. So if a package with clothing arrived on Yom Tov and Shabbos beyond the Tchum, you'd be allowed to wear those clothes anywhere within the Eruv. But you wouldn't be able to go up the road to Beis Lubavitch because that's beyond the Eruv, and that's considered going beyond the Dal Dams. So that's I find it interesting that the Shmiras Shabbos Kilchosto does not. He just says you're allowed to use it, which is true, but he doesn't say that you'd be limited to carry it beyond the Eruv. I mean, that's a stroll. I guess everywhere has got an Eruv. Well, he talks about Chutz La'aretz, but if there's an Eruv, then the Chutz L'Dal Damas is irrelevant. But yeah, now it happens. I mentioned the name Detroit because I seem to recall that Detroit has an Eruv, and therefore, even if let's say the Lubavitcher Tzibur are not so keen to rely on the Eruv, but in relation to this, I think one can rely on you would be allowed to wear it. That's a separate thing also when that's all on the assumption that something delivered by Amazon is from beyond the Tchum, which may not be the case at all. It may be that their depot is within the Tchum, and therefore there's no problem, of course, the Tchum altogether. That's very much subjective, which you can find out. But the thing is, if it rises off Yom Tov, you probably won't be able to find out on Yom Tov. Okay, let's move on. Now, the next question is something which I don't remember a year I should have so many shilas of this. A number of shluchim, particularly, we're looking to start the meal on Erev Sukkot, the Eva, in other words, the Friday night meal, to start early. I'm not sure why more this year more than any other. And that is a problem. Although on a Friday night it's okay to be Makabel Shabbos early and to start your meal early, we all know that we have a problem with that on Seder night. That's such a chef. The Shluchim struggle very much with public Sidorim starting so late. It's interesting. I'm mentioning it now, which is tomorrow for this Friday night. In other words, going into Shmini Atzeres, not to have the meal early, because then you're going to have an interesting dilemma. If you'd start the meal Shmini Atzeres before Nacht, so what you're going to say in Kiddush, you're going to Shmini Atzeres Chagaza, yeah? It's still Sukkot, by the way. So you're going to have to say Leisha Vasukkah. It'll be very interesting to be saying at the same time Leisha Vasukkah and Shmini Atzeres Chagaza. It's, as you say, that it's two contradictory voices. Trey Colley the Sastri. So Shmini Atzeres also, you wouldn't be able to start the meal early. But let's read why it's important not to start the meal early on the first night of Sukkot. So here in Shulchan Aruch, again, I think it's Tofresh Lamed Tes, where it talks about the first night of Sukkot, the mitzvah of eating on the first night of Sukkot is compared to eating the matzah, the first night of Pesach, the 15th, and therefore they're compared in numerous aspects. B'chol dover, number one, we all know that in Erev Pesach, the Mishnah, in Arib Sochim, we don't eat a large amount in the late afternoon, so that you should have an appetite for the matzah. Same thing. You shouldn't have a lot of food on late afternoon of Erev Sukkot, so that you should have an appetite for the first kazayis of bread that you're going to have in the sukkah. Second comparison is an application not to eat in the sukkah until after nightfall, because just like we learn by Pesach, it has to be balaylo hazeh, so to sukkah. First night of sukkah, the mitzvah of eating the sukkah is balaylo hazeh, and therefore you'd have to wait with your first kazayas of challah until after nightfall. And then the third thing is about making a point to eat before midnight, just like matzah has to be eaten before midnight. Perhaps we've discussed this in the past, whether where it has to be just, if you're comparing it to matzah, perhaps it should be just like matzah should be just flour and water. So then also the challah for the night of Sukkot should be flour and water. The Chidor does insist that way, but many other poskim disagree. And Shluchim have asked me, what about having, for people not going to come and eat the meal in the sukkah? Is there value of them having kiddush in the shul sukkah and having a bit of mezonus, kazayas of mezonus? And I believe, although the Chiddush says it's not enough, but according to many other poskim, there definitely is an achievement of them being yotze mitzvah sukkah, having the first kazayas, whether it's mezonus or hamotzi, doesn't matter according to this, and the yotze the kazayas and sukkah, although they're going to eat in their house for the rest of the evening, etc. Okay, right. Okay, so here comes this last week a shliach. He's an American. He's on shlichus somewhere in Central Europe, and as you may know, many of these universities have a lot of Israeli students for whatever reason, medical schools, etc. They're very popular with Israeli students, and so he's a campus shliach and catering a lot of Israeli students. And he published his program for the whole of Sukkot. And in the program, it said that the night of Shmini Atzeres will be eating in the sukkah. So one of the more learned Israeli students says, well, to eat in the sukkah on Shmini Atzeres, you're going to have to break away part of the ceiling, a part of the schach. Now, this American shliach had never heard of this kind of thing. Doesn't know what you're talking about. So here we have, this is from the Shulchan Aruch, and we'll see that both are right, yeah? So it does say in Shulchan Aruch, in Eretz Yisrael, Sukkot, the mitzvah of Sukkot is 7 days. Shmini Atzeres, there's no mitzvah to sit in the sukkah. If you do want to sit in the sukkah, because you don't have anywhere else to sit, so Shulchan Aruch says, you'll have to demolish of the schach a 4 by 4 tefachim square or more to make a heka, to make an indication that you're sitting in the sukkah, not l'shem mitzvah sukkah, but just because you need the space. So in Eretz Yisrael, if I wanted to sit in the sukkah, Shmini Atzeres, I would have to demolish part of the schach. I was told that in the earlier years, the Rebbe, where the Fabrengens used to be, in the area between two buildings, that's now being built over, but then there was between two buildings, it was known as the Shalash, and it was covered with a tarpaulin. That's where the Fabrengens would take place. For Sukkot, they took away the tarpaulin and covered it with the schach. So the Rebbe's Fabrengen was there, but before the Rebbe's Fabrengen on Simchas Torah, they somehow had a goy removing some of the schach where the Rebbe was sitting, so that it shouldn't be that the Simchas Torah sitting in the sukkah. All right, without going into the detail of how they did that, etc. But meanwhile, this is true, that if it's clearly no chiyuv of sukkah, and you're sitting in the sukkah, in any case, there is it looks like you are adding an extra day to the mitzvah, and we have an issur of Bal Tosif. We shouldn't be adding to a mitzvah. It's not mamish Bal Tosif, but it's nira kamoisif. Having said all that, now we see in the Sharit Shuvah, that's the Siman Tofrei Samaches, a little bit further, talking about Shluchei Eretz Yisrael, collecting tzedakah for the community in Eretz Yisrael, they in Chutz La'aretz. Now, an Israeli in Chutz La'aretz has to be mindful and respectful of the fact that it's Yom Tov Sheni for the local people, and therefore the visitors from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz and they're staying with a family, they should be sitting with a balabayis on Shmini Atzeres, because they have to be respectful of the fact that here it's considered Yom Tov. Yom Tov Sheni and Chayav Sukkah, yeah? Yom Tov Sheni of the 7th of Sukkah. And they should say to them, personally, they should, a mental note, they're not doing this l'shem mitzvah. I don't know what it means, but does it mean dafka to say it orally? So anyway, in mind, they're not intending to eat here because of mitzvah, just out of respect. As far as sleeping, he says, find an excuse to sleep indoors. Also eat something outside the sukkah in a discreet way. So this is the answer, that in Chutz La'aretz, it would be correct for the visitors, even if they're keeping only one day for whatever reason, but they should still be sitting in the sukkah out of respect for the Zalzel, but they're doing so not l'shem mitzvah. Okay, let's move on. So here we have a question. On Shmini Atzeres, that's the switchover. That's the switchover when we start saying Moed HaGeshem. Now this is discussed in Shulchan Aruch, in Simin Kuf Yudalad, in the Din of Shemon Esrei, the first volume of Shulchan Aruch. So, and this Shulchan Aruch discusses in detail why the switchover is done at Musaf of Shmini Atzeres. It's not done at the beginning of Sukkot because we don't want to mention about rain during Sukkot. We don't want to, because rain during Sukkot is not terribly welcome. Then why the switchover is done at Musaf, because otherwise the announcement would be you can't announce before at Shacharis before God Yisrael, whatever. So the switchover is done at Musaf. And there is a very strong emphasis that the switchover is only after the announcement has been made. The announcement can be one of two forms. Either the Chazan in Chazor Sashatz, he says aloud, Mashav Haruach Meir Geshem, that would be the announcement. Or there is a simple, the Garber bangs on the table, on the bimah, Mashav Haruach Meir Geshem, before Musaf. So there has to be that announcement. Me'ebasai Mazkirin, Gvuris Geshomim. And in some places there's a girsa machrizin, a hechroze of Gvuras Geshomim. There's an announcement. All right, so all very well. If we go to shul, we have clearly the guidelines that for Shachris we'll say when we're saying Meir Dato, or not at all if you're down in Ashkenaz. And then it comes to Musaf, you'll switch over and start saying Mashav Haruach, because that's the announcement. You've heard the announcement. The question is, what about people who are living, who are not going to shul? So here we have, in the Alter Rebbe's Shulchan Aruch, V'hador b'mokim she'ein minyan. This is a small place, no minyan. He should wait until the time that they're davening Musaf, that is, b'kehilos, in the, I guess it means the nearest congregations. In the Mishnah Brura, he brings, they also sing B'nei HaYeshuvim. Now he says a slightly different lashon, which is from the Chayodim, I believe. At somuch l'sheish shoyes, he should wait with Musaf until close to 6 hours of the day, close to 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, because for sure by then the tzibur would have switched over. All right, fine. Now he says, now this is the Mishnah Brura. Now this is for the Sefer Piskei Teshuvos, and he says that this is about the Bnei Yeshuvim, but the people who are affiliated to a particular shul, a yochid who's used to go to a particular shul, but now because of illness or some other circumstance, he's davening at home, etc., biyichidas, then he is drawn, he's dictated by the tzibur with which he is a regular. And therefore, he should have his switch over to Musaf, to start saying Mashav Haruach at Musaf, according to the time, the estimated time of the announcement in his shul. If he doesn't have a set place, then he says, then that's another discussion. And then he goes a little bit further, that if for whatever reason you did not daven Shacharis on Shmini Atzeres, until after the announcement in your shul, then you should be saying at Shachris. You should already be saying Mashav Haruach in Shachris. Okay, so these are several points here. But meanwhile, he's saying that your status is dictated by the shul where you are a regular. Now, this, in my mind, started raising alarm bells, because in the dinim of Hadlokas Neiris and Kabbalas Shabbos, that there is a din that if the community has accepted Shabbos, then you're bound by the community's acceptance of Shabbos. What about if you're not going to shul, etc.? And here there's a difference between the Alter Rebbe and the Machzas HaShekel. So in the Mogen Avraham, he says that one shul is not dictated by another shul. Each one. Now, then this is what the Machzas HaShekel says, and then we'll read the Alter Rebbe. So there's the Mogen Avraham has got a bit more detail, and then he says that one shul is not dictated by another. Rather, the people who are used to going to a particular shul, those people are dictated by their shul where they used to go. So he has this new idea that even if you don't go to shul, you are dictated by the shul where you go. Now let's read what the Alter Rebbe says. This is Reish Samach Gimel. Like this. If the majority of the community didn't come to shul, so they're not dictated by the minority. Next. Then he says, if you have a city which got numerous shuls, so then those who didn't daven in one shul are not affected by the other shuls, even though they are a minority. So this is so far is exactly the same as the Mogen Avraham, that one shul is not dictated by another shul. But then the Alter Rebbe adds in brackets, so that's what's important to us. A yochid who didn't go to shul, whether Mekabel Shabbos, even if he's used to davening in that shul, so he usually davens in an early shul. In that shul, so now it's, let's say, it's 7 o'clock, and his shul they've already been Mekabel Shabbos. But the rave of the ear on Mekabel Shabbos only at 7:30 or something. So he is allowed to do melacha. So here we have, contrary to what the Machzas HaShekel is saying, the Alter Rebbe is saying that one who doesn't go to shul, his status is not dictated by his regular shul, but rather by the majority. Now here the Alter Rebbe is presenting it in a lenient stance, that his shul is mekabel early, the rest of most of the town mekabel late, so he can. Yeah. Now what would be the other way around? If he's used to a shul which they daven late, but the rest of the community, most of the community of the shuls are davening early. So then, according to the same logic, it should be that he should be dictated by, because he's not going to shul, so then he should be dictated by the majority, and he should have to be Mekabel Shabbos early. Why is that not a big issue in Stamford Hill or Golders Green, etc., where most shuls are davening in summer? They're davening Mekabel Shabbos early. So male people going to shul, you can say, is one thing, but if one shul is not dictated by another shul, but they're not going to shul, what about many single women or whatever, and they're not going to shul, the husband, and why don't they have to be Mekabel Shabbos early? All right, so there's the Igros Moshe, who says that this whole business is only applicable when the Kabbalah Shabbos early is out of frumkeit, not just for convenience. So that's why it's not necessary to make a whole tumult about this. But meanwhile, we do have a yesod here, that we have here a quite a clear distinction about difference of opinion. The Alter Rebbe says that a yochid is dictated by rov ha'ir, and Machzas HaShekel says you're going according to the shul where you belong to. Now, going back to the previous slide, where we're talking about as far as Mashav Haruach. So this psak, which the Piskei Teshuvos writes, that if you don't go to shul, you're dictated by your regular shul. That is very much, you look inside, you see in the references, it's very much dictated and sourced from the din of a Kabbalah Shabbos. Just like a Kabbalah Shabbos, you're dictated by your regular shul. The same thing for Mashav Haruach. So therefore, according to the Alter Rebbe, that if you're not going to shul, you're dictated by the majority of town. So the same thing should be for Mashiv Haruach. And therefore, let's go through this in detail. If in your area there are 10 shuls, and Taka, your regular shul, let's say it's Chabad, and they're davening, they will get to Musaf at 12 o'clock. But most of the shuls will be already have started Musaf by 11 o'clock. So then, if you're davening Musaf, if you want to daven Musaf at 11:15, no problem. You can say Mashav Haruach, although your shul hasn't said Mashav Haruach yet, but you can follow the majority. It would be also interesting the other way around. If you only start in Shachris, and there it's after 11, so although your shul hasn't made the announcement Mashav Haruach yet, but the Rov Ha'ir have, so then you'd have to say Mashav Haruach in Shachris too. Now, just I want to finish off. What I found very interesting is that in the Piskei Teshuvos, if it's too much of a pilpul, in a couple of minutes I'll be on to the next topic, so don't worry. In the Piskei Teshuvos, he wants to reconcile. Now the Alter Rebbe is talking about someone who's not going to shul altogether. The Machzis HaShekel is talking about someone who is intending to go to shul, but he didn't get there yet. So that's why he's dictated by his local shul, because he intends to go still on that, and therefore, although he hasn't gone to shul yet, but he's really bound by the shul because he intends to go there. If that's the case, then he shouldn't have left us open in Kuf Yud Dalet about Mashav Haruach, because there he seems to say whether you're not going to shul altogether, you're dictated by your local shul, by your regular shul. Here he's saying no, that's only if you intend to go later. So it's just a kasha on the Piskei Teshuvos. He's contradicting himself, which I actually asked someone. I sent a letter to him via someone else as well, but that didn't. He hasn't responded. Okay, well, never mind. For us, it's not negea. For us, it's negea clear that the content of the Alter Rebbe, your status as far as Mashav Haruach and Geshem is going according to Rov Ha'ir. Let's move on. Okay. So one of our shluchim was a little bit concerned. He had honored someone to be Chassan Torah, and then he realized he's a Kohen or he's a Levi, and he was a little bit not sure whether he'd done the wrong thing. So I was happy to reassure him that that the halacha, this is from Mishnah Berurah, that Mariel puts that a Kohen or Levi can be given Chassan Torah or Chassan Bereshis. It doesn't have to be Kohen doesn't have to be the first aliyah, and this is part of what on Simchas Torah we tend to. There's a lot of should we say latitude in lots of things which normally wouldn't be allowed. Let's say you have several people having aliyah together, you read the same thing again and again. So this is also one of the things that it can be a Kohen and Levi, could be Chassan Torah, Chassan Bereshis. Okay, someone told me that in 770, Rabbi Shmuel Levitin, the Rebbe would always have Chassan Bereshis, and who would get Chassan Torah? So it was Rabbi Shmuel Levitin, who was obviously a Levi. So that's the done thing. Okay. Meanwhile, it came up in the discussion how various things are done on Simchas Torah, a bit more lenient the rest of the year. So someone sent me the following: that when this is from Tov Mem Tes. It was a surprise for me this whole communication. In Tov Mem Tes, when the Rebbe came out with the whole mitzvah of Yom Haledes, of celebrating birthdays, and one of the minhagim is that if that you'd have the Shabbos before your birthday, you'd have an Aliyah Torah. So now one of the Askonim in Eretz Yisrael thought, okay, it's a big thing about the birthdays and Aliyah Torah. How about it should be that a child, a boy whose father is before Bar Mitzvah, Perhaps it would be that the Shabbos before his bar mitzvah, before his birthday, is 9 years old, yeah, turning 10. He'll have an aliyah together with his father, as is done by many communities in Simchas Torah. Now, the one who sent this to me said he had discussed it with the Rav, a prominent Rav of Chabad in Eretz Yisrael, who said that's okay. And based upon that, he took the liberty to ask the Rebbe whether that would be something to be encouraged, that the Shabbos before a boy has a birthday, he should have, his father would have an aliyah, and he would have an aliyah. He's time with his father together, and he would have an aliyah l'Torah. So the Rebbe answered, "Moving a poshut, shekach noagim b'simchas Torah." Now, I deliberately missed out those two words of ach v'rak. He wrote, the Rebbe answered, "Moving a poshut, shekach noagim b'simchas Torah." Now that was, as far as the shliach, the shoyel was concerned, was ambiguous. The Rebbe says, yes, it's done in Simchas Torah. Now, was that saying it's a good idea or not a good idea? Because you could say, since it's done in Simchas Torah, therefore it's legitimate. Or to say, it's only done in Simchas Torah. So he asked Rabbi Gronal Shalom, what I make of it? I'm not sure. So he said Rabbi Gron told him to write it again. And at this time, the Rebbe added to his answer the words ach v'rak. So the Rebbe negated this. So there was this question, whether a child should have an aliyah together with his father before Yom Haledes, and the Rebbe said, no, that's not to introduce a new practice. This is a thing for Simchas Torah, but otherwise we do not see a minhag of having a child have aliyah l'Torah together with an adult. Okay, I just wanted to share that with you. That's just interesting history. Right. Now, a child of about 9 years old, a girl, asked my daughter why. My daughter does like a group for the girls who are davening in shul. She's a teacher and she's helping them to learn how to daven. And so one of the girls of this group asked, they go into shul for Kriyas Torah, why is the man making a bracha before and after? So she didn't know the answer. She asked me. So I said, I also don't know the answer. So I looked up actually Encyclopedia Talmudis on the entry of Birchas HaTorah. So he does have some reasons given. One of the reasons is that the Torah is called a Shira, and after the Shira of Hazina comes Zes HaBrocha, whatever. Not so clear. But what I would like to say is a very simple svara, that originally, Birchas HaTorah was the following. The first aliyah, the first oile, would say the bracha Rishona, and then he'd read his piece, go down, next one read the next piece, and without brachas before and after. The seventh one, who finished the Kriyas Torah, he would say the after bracha. So there would be just one pair of brachas, one at the beginning of the 7 aliyahs on a Shabbos, and one at the end of the 7 aliyahs. Then at a later stage, because people getting confused, people came in the middle of Kriyas Torah and they thought, left the middle of Kriyas Torah, and they thought that they're only doing one bracha at the end or one bracha at the beginning. So they're at the later stage already in the Gemara, they're introduced to do a bracha. Each one has a bracha before and after. But the idea here, the bracha is like of these brachas is, well, this after bracha. We have a quota. We have a quota which we are meant to be learning today, meant to reading today. So we make a bracha at the beginning of the quota. When we finish the quota, we're going to make a bracha as kind of recognizing, celebrating we've completed that quota. That's my understanding. Where do I see similar to this? Well, we have at the end of Hallel, we have the bracha Halucha. We have the end of Megillah, the bracha Harovos Rivenu. Although these two are in the Gemara, and Megillah, if I'm not mistaken, talks to them about minhag, but possibly that minhag of making a bracha at the end of Megillah, the end of Hallel, is inspired by the halacha of saying a bracha at the end of Kriyas Torah. We also have at the end of the Haggadah, both at the end of the first part of the Haggadah, they have a bracha, And then we have at the end of Hallel, the second part of the Haggadah, the end of the Seder. So we can see here a style of when there is a set quota, when that quota is completed, to say a bracha, to recognize, to celebrate, whatever word you want to use. One more example is where, although it's now it comes to mind, it's not such a clear thing. There is in Yerushalmi that when one who removes his tefillin would say a bracha shekishon b'mitzvah v'tzivonu lishmei chuko, and that's because the Yerushalmi follows the opinion that Lailo loves man tefillin, and therefore why Lailo loves man tefillin? Because it says in the Apostle, "V'shamartu sachuka hazos miyomim yomimo." The mitzvah of tefillin is b'yoyim, not b'laylo. So if it comes shkia, the wearing tefillin the whole day, he comes shkia, he has to take off his tefillin. So there's a mitzvah to take off the tefillin. V'shamartu, so they would say but there it's a bit different. It's not the end of a mitzvah. There he's actually doing a mitzvah lishmei chuka. To take off the tefillin, that shkia would be a mitzvah. So it's like a regular birchas mitzvahs. But perhaps we've discussed this before, I'm sure, but in Avodat Zion. So they are those who take off their tefillin at, as mentioned, Shulchan Aruch, so that those who see that as kind of the birchas hamitzvahs of taking off the tefillin, and there is the minhag of actually touching the shel yad and shel rosh at that point, reminiscent of the svara that is actually a bracha achroina for tefillin. Okay, someone's asking a question. Rabbi Elu is adding also the end of Sukkot Zimra. Okay, fair enough. Okay, yeah. Right, thank you. So now we're going to this question. Someone asked me about having a Shabbos belt, that's for a key, to be able to wear a key, and wearing it on your shirt. If your shirt is tucked into your trousers, yeah. So would that be legitimate? Now, what you have on the screen is actually from Igris Moshe, and he was asked this question about wearing a Shabbos belt, etc. And he says to wear it on your vest. Chaluk hasomach leguf. Says that's not okay, because he says there's nothing, you're not trying to make your vest look nicer, undershirt doesn't, it's not a garment. It's a garment just worn to absorb your perspiration. So you don't wear a belt on it to make it look more presentable. Then he goes further, because the use of a belt is only when it's there to make your garment, your dressing should be better, which that doesn't apply to an undershirt. But then he says another thing, Gam levad zeh, besides this svara, also harei chagura chaluk michnosayim atachtonim. What he means is, I think he means in the underwear, he's sticking, one puts his shirt into his hazen. So therefore, that's why he sees again that it's not considered, that doesn't need to have a chagura because it has a chagura already. And as a result, he says, and he also in that shuvah, he says, what about wearing it on a tie? He says no, a tie is an ornament, and it's to have a belt on a tie. It doesn't see it as a beged which needs to have a belt to hold it in place. And therefore, he says, if you don't want to wear your chagura, your Shabbos belt or whatever belt on your jacket, you'd have to bring it before Shabbos. You'd have to bring. Oh no, he's talking here about a gartel. Sorry, he's not talking about a Shabbos belt. He's talking about just a gartel. The question he's dealing with is about wearing a gartel which you wear only for tefillah, to wear that through the street. So he says if you wear it, you can wear it on your jacket. He said that's okay. If you don't want to wear it on your jacket, you have to leave your gartel in the shul where you daven. But what he does say is that it has to be that the that the belt is actually serving a purpose to make this garment more presentable. And so, although I'm going to admit that it doesn't say clearly an objection to the shirt tucked in the trousers or about a belt, but the svara seems to be that it doesn't seem to add anything because the belt because the shirt is tucked into the trousers and the trousers are worn with a belt or something which is keeping the shirt in place. So there seems to be superfluous to have a belt on it to keep it in place. Therefore, it would make sense that it would have to be worn on a jacket or something like that. And if that's the case, obviously, it wouldn't be able to wear a gartel. Right. Let's move on. Now, then, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, I asked the question in this piyut, which we have on the first 2 days, on the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, and it showed how it's the name of the Shimon. It was Shimon ben Yitzchak, I think. And then we have, so it's the first acrostic is an Aleph base, and the second acrostic is Shimon ben Yitzchak Chazak Ve'ematz. That brings you till there. And then the last 3 stanzas have got Mem Yud Tov, and I was puzzled what is the message in those 3 letters. So he's finished, he's said his name, he said Chazak Ve'ematz. He's got another 3 stanzas, and he writes Mem Yud Tov, which I was really concerned what he's trying to say. Now, if you remember, I also had pointed out you've got the Kuf Shin Tov, and Reish is missed out. So suggested, and I saw it later in other Machzorim, that the Kuf Reish, Kiryas, that's Kuf Reish Shin Tov. You do have the Reish there. So one of our listeners wanted to suggest a very interesting idea. He wanted to make some kind of cheshbon of Mizbeach, that the Zion of Mizbeach would be a cheshbon of 700 years, or something on those lines, Tov Shin, and somehow there would be Tov Shin Nun Dalet, and his suggestion was that this is a remez for the year when this was written. Now, this was written by Reb Shimon HaGodel, who was a contemporary of Rabbeinu Gershom, and he's born in the year 950, and he passed away in the year 1020. So that would mean he was born Daled Alof Tofshin Yud, and he passed away 70 years later. So that would be Tofshin Pei, Daled Alof Tofshin Pei. So somewhere during this time is when he put together. So that's, I mean, the idea is a fascinating one. I'm not sure how it works exactly in the detail, but what I was thinking of taking his cue, to take that the stanzas have got like the each of these stanzas where you can see I've highlighted with in yellow. Just take the following: Tov Shin, Tahilos Yisano and Shevach. That's Tov Shin. And then we have a Mem and a Yud and a Chof, and then a Vav. So that would mean Tov Shin Nun Dalet. So thank you, Rabbi Lipsy in Newcastle, for that idea that this is a remez to the year. How exactly work out? So possibly I'm suggesting a slightly different way, the way he suggested, but to bring us to the number of Tov Shin something, Tov Shin Nun something, which is clearly in the lifetime of Reb Shimon Ber Yitzchak, who was the composer of this. By the way, in the Nusach Ashkenaz, I'm sure some of you remember the story of a poet who had a son who was snatched as a child, and then he snatched by a maid, and then he became the Pope. And then later his father meets him, and he tells him about a poem which he composed, El Chonon B'ni. Now, I just saw this in the last few days, that this is the same Reb Shimon of Mainz, and he has in one of his piyutim, which is not in our nusach, but it is in the Ashkenaz Machzer, so it has there also an acrostic for Elchanan, and that he composed because of his son Elchanan had been snatched, and later the father met up with him, and he was able to run away from the Vatican and he returned to Yiddishkeit. Let's move on. Okay, so this is beyond what you have on the list, but someone, never mind, we have another couple of minutes for our shir. So this is a very common kind of sukkah sitting on a trailer. So this one you can see here is actually from Kovna in Lithuania, but the question I got was actually from United States, that a shliach says, a fellow shliach came to him and said that a mechitza teluya, a suspended mechitza, doesn't count, and therefore it's imperative that you fill in the space under the trailer. That open space should also be filled in with cardboard boxes or something like that. So he asked me, is there any validity in this issue? Does he have to be worried about it? So my first reaction was, no, it's not a problem at all, because the word of mechitza teluya being invalid is because mechitza means to protect an area, and if it's suspended in the air, so then animals, the gedoyim biking by animals, can come through. True. That's if I want, but if I have here a bed, the trailer has a bed, and then I want to put that's the area which I want to protect. So then the mechitza, that area is being protected. The fact that it's not going all the way to the ground doesn't matter. Now, also my immediate reaction is, you have a Mishnah about also made a sukkah on the top of a camel, on top of a tree, etc. And nervous, it's not clear, it's not spelt out in the Mishnah that the sukkah on the top of the tree does not have walls all the way down to the ground. Yeah, it could be. It could be. So therefore, it needed to have a little bit more of proof, one way or the other. So I did do some research. It's very clear in poskim, in the contemporary poskim, that's not a problem. This is not called a problem of mechitza teluya because you just protect the area. But let's just read a Tosfos in Shabbos Daf Tzadik Tes Amud Aleph. Talks there about the gzustrois, which are ledges. A gzustra is a ledge jutting out from a house. So Tosfos says, and it says that they are rishus hayochid. So Tosfos says that it's talking about that the ledge has also got a screen underneath, sosum lamata b'shum dover, so that there should not be gedoyim boikim under the ledge. Oh, ishayesh mechitzis l'maylam in hagazustra. Or if the ledge has got walls around it above, the sulei chashinu lebekiyas gedoyim, then we have no reason to be concerned of the fact that animals can run through underneath. So very simply, according to the Shilas, the Makshon, according to the questioner, a balcony would not be rishus hayochid because there's room to walk underneath it, and that's not true because the walls are relative to the area which they are to protect, and since they are coming down till the floor there, or lower to the floor, that's good enough, even though beneath the floor, beneath the whole area, there is open air. That's not an issue. Okay, the next piece is a bit of a complicated story, but all right, the mamish very quickly. This is written up in the Miluim of the Siddur, I think it's Simchov Beis. What is the time frame for eating the kabeya v'oid to be able to say leisha basukah? And so you have the shear of quantity of food to be justified leisha basukah is just over the volume of an egg. What's the time frame? Is it a kazayis? So it's twice a kazayis. Is it kazayis of chilas pras? That means that you've got 8 minutes. Let's say if chilas pras is 4 minutes, so now the shear is of 2 kazesim. Therefore, you should have 8 minutes. So if I've got a bunch of biscuits, which are the shear of Kabea V'oid, do I, to be able to say Bracha Leshav HaSukkah, do I have to eat them within 4 minutes? Or can I eat them in 8 minutes and still say the bracha? This is the question. I was on Motzei Shabbos. We had a Fabring and I went to the Sukkah and they had these little crackers. And I was thinking, how long, how many crackers do I have to eat to be able to justify my bracha Leshav HaSukkah? It's not such a problem because I was in any case sitting in the Sukkah for a long time. So even for the sitting alone, it's okay justified. But here's the question. And in one place, the Ksos HaShulchan writes that the shear would be just like for Netilas Yadayim, the Alter Rebbe writes that it goes according to twice. Netilas Yadayim, the shear is to make a bracha, you have to have a volume of an egg. The Alter Rebbe says for that you should provide you'll eat that volume within twice Kedei Achilas Pras, because it's twice a kazayas. So he says the same thing is for Sukkah. That's what he writes in one place. And in another place, which he wrote later in the Shiurei Torah, he disagrees, and he wants to say that you'd have to have the whole Kabea V'oid within one Kedei Achilas Pras, within 4 minutes. So we have here a contradiction in Reb Chaim Noer, but bottom line is, what I can tell you in Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, he addresses this. It's quoted in the Sefer Sukkah HaSholim, and he says that it's Pamayim, twice Kedei Achilas Pras, namely, if you're having a shear of Kabea V'oid within 8 minutes, you are able to say the bracha of Leshav HaSukkah. I'll stop with this. Wish you a good moed and a good Yom Tov, and to be mamshich the Sukkah, the Simcha should be mamshich to have Simcha whole year round. Simchas Olam al Rosham V'la Mitzvah V'Ashteim with Mashiach Tzidkein.
Go ahead.